In this video, I'm going to be showing you some of the software that you're probably going to need to use in order to be successful at this challenge. All the software is free for educational purposes, meaning you're going to need to use your school email account in order to sign up, sign in and download. The software I show you is available for both PC and for Apple, although some of the software does have an age limit. I'll be showing you the alternatives first. Let's start with TinkerCAD. Now, TinkerCAD is web-based, and that allows you to design a model using your web browser. The good thing about this is it really doesn't require any supercomputer to use, because it's using the servers on their side. Once you've signed up, you'll be presented with the option to create a design. With all these computer-aided design programs, or CAD for short, there are common features. They all have something we call a view cube. Now the view cube here, if I click in move, then I can actually move the world around and therefore see what I'm drawing. They all require you to either draw a sketch or draw a solid, and then take away from that sketch or solid. So if I was to draw a tube, for example, in TinkerCAD, I would take a cylinder, drag it in. I can change the size by clicking here. So this would be 20. Now, you could think 20 centimeters, but it's probably better to think 20 millimeters, because that makes it a little bit more accurate. So for this one, I'm going to say 3 centimeters or 30 millimeters. So I press the 30 and then the tab. And now I'm going to extend that height, and I can actually drag that. And so we'll go to 70. So that's 7 centimeters. And then I'm going to click off that. Okay, so you can see I've got a cylinder. You can't really play a cylinder, or can you? Well, let's assume you can't. So what I'm going to do now is I've got to make this hollow. And this is where TinkerCAD becomes a little bit more complicated. I need to take a cylindrical hole, which is another cylinder, but instead of it being solid, it's a hole. And what I'm going to do is, I remember that the size here was 30, see, 30 by 30 by 70, and I need to make this a little bit smaller. So 20 by 20 would be a bit too small. So if I went 25 by 25 and then make this, let's say 75, and now I'm going to use the view cube. So to look at the view cube, if I click that, now the trouble is this is called perspective, meaning things are getting smaller as they get further away. And of course, if I'm trying to measure and move things around and rearrange, I don't really want them to get smaller as they get further away. So for this one, I'm going to click that view, and now you can see it's completely flat. I'm going to slide that across, zoom in using the mouse wheel. I'm going to use this and drag it down. And now I'm going to use that view cube to start moving things around. So let's have a look at the top view. Now I could probably arrange it neatly by aligning it. So why don't we align it? Want it in the middle. And now by clicking that, it's aligned it in. I need to add the hole to the cylinder to make a tube. So select everything and group. Now when I click off it, you'll see that that is now a tube. Okay, well that's the basics of TinkerCAD. Let's have a look at another piece of software called Shapr. Now, where TinkerCAD is really aimed for the very young users and those beginning to use CAD, Shapr is slightly more advanced. So if I go to Shapr, I would actually go Shapr3D, there's no E, .com, and I can download that and then I can register for an education account. It looks very different at first, but suddenly you realize, well, hang on, it still has the grid for the base, it still has the cube that I can move around, but this one allows me to sketch. So let's click sketch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a cylinder, exactly the same. So I'm going to click circle. It says draw a circle. Well, I want to draw a circle from the top, so I'm just going to click the top of that view cube. I select the place to start, that will be the middle, and I can now type in 30. Well, I can actually exit that sketch, or I can press escape and I can move it around if I want. I can drag the middle. I'm going to exit that sketch and I'm going to use my view cube and just drag that up. Use a tool and extrude up. And I said that it was 70 as I remember. And press OK. Okay, well, I've made a cylinder, but I haven't made it hollow. So how do I do that? Well, I can use a tool and I can shell it. And that does that. Or I can add another sketch. Let's select that. And now I'm going to draw another circle. We'll just type in 25. And then exit that sketch. And you remember how we extruded? Well, exactly the same way. I'm now going to extrude the middle, but instead of coming up, we go down. Press done. And you can see that that has made that pipe hollow. Okay, a little bit more advanced, but actually, once you get the hang of this, it's a lot easier to draw exactly what you're thinking in Shapr than it is in TinkerCAD. Let's have a look at the more advanced one. Now this is Fusion. Again, exactly the same. You've got that grid, you've got that platform, and you've got your view cube that you can manipulate to see things. Now we can do it two ways. So we can do it the TinkerCAD way in this, or we can do it in the Shapr way. Let's do the TinkerCAD. So for this, if I go to create and cylinder, say, well, I want a cylinder there, and type in 30 and drag it up 70. So there's my cylinder. Now let's draw it in the same way that we did the Shapr way. So for this, create a sketch. I want to create a sketch here. I want to draw a circle. If you can't see the circle here, you can actually go down to see the circle there. Select. Oh, that's wrong. Let's just double click that and type in 30. And to save me time, I'm actually going to draw another circle. So circle there, and this one was 25. And I'm going to finish that sketch. Let's make it 3D again. And for this, you can see that extrude button there. But if I click on the outside and extrude it 70, got exactly the same thing in the same way as I did Shapr. All right, let's have a look at the problems with Fusion. Well, Fusion's very, very good, but because I'm connected to a forum using this one, it means that the age limit is 14. So if you're not 14 yet and you're under 14, then unfortunately you're not really allowed to use this, which is why I would suggest using either Shapr or TinkerCAD. Okay, well that's CAD. There are 3 CAD pieces of software. So let's have a look at the last piece of software. This is called FlashPrint. Now FlashForge, FlashPrint is a slicing software. And what that does is it looks at your model, then it slices it all up into lots and lots of layers, and then it tells a 3D printer to print these layers one by one in the material you've chosen. So in order to do this, we always need to export. So with TinkerCAD, you export, as an STL or an OBJ. With Shapr, you export as OBJ or STL. And with Fusion, there are a few ways of doing this one. You can right click, save as mesh, or you can go to Utilities, Make, select the thing you wanted to make, choose the OBJ STL, and then you can send it straight to FlashPrint. Let's have a look at FlashPrint. So you've downloaded FlashPrint and you're presented with this screen. Now this only really works with FlashForge 3D printers. Now the school does have quite a few FlashForge 3D printers. Now the printer we use is either the Dreamer, we have the Adventurer 4, we have a Guider 2. Well, let's have a look at the Dreamer. So the Dreamer is a little white machine and it looks a little bit like a very small microwave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the mesh or the STL or OBJ file to this screen here. Once I've told Fusion where the application is, I can simply press OK, open up FlashPrint, and I'll see it here. Okay, so what do I do now? Let's press Start Slicing. These are the settings. If you're using PLA at school, you're probably going to be using a 1.75mm, so we can leave this here. It's better to use a standard or fast profile, otherwise it's going to take a long time and it's going to use a lot of plastic. So for this one, because I'm just testing, I'm just going to press fast and then slice. Now I can simply download this file, saving it straight to a thumb drive and plugging it directly into the 3D printer. So as this prints, the printer starts here and lays plastic in a circle and then moves up and lays it in a circle and just keeps going, slice by slice. If that's the case, what would happen if this pipe was lying on its side? Let's have a look. Well, as the printer moved up, it would print this, but then as it got here, there's a chance that the top might fall down because there's nothing to support it. You can put supports in by clicking the supports, tree-like, do auto supports, and now you'll see it. But you need to think, even though the supports will help the pipe print nicely and it won't roll around, will you be able to play this? The air go through. And therefore, you need to now think, which way should I print it? Now, obviously, if you've made something very, very large, it's not going to fit in the printer. So you're going to need to put it in parts. And again, would you spend hours and hours printing lots and lots of parts to know that, oh, actually it didn't work? Or would you print something to test it very quickly and very small and then scale it up after that? Maybe you want to test a valve or a mouthpiece. Would you be able to test that quickly first before committing to many hours and lots of plastic? So you've got to think, how am I printing it? What am I printing and why am I printing it? Okay, well that's the basics of the CAD programs and the software FlashPrint, the slicer that you're going to need to use if you're using the 3D printers at school. Any questions, please let me know.